And so these towns are all scrunched together. So you have all these different groups living right close together, and they're all kind of enduring the same kind of really rough system that's kind of cheating them out of their money. They get their job. They're told that they have to buy their equipment on the first day. Like they can't, they don't get their equipment provided. So they got to buy their pick, their dynamite, their gunpowder, their canary, their little canary cage.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And the canary was used to tell them when carbon monoxide was entering the mine.
Yes. Yeah. When the canary falls over, it's time to run.
Yep.
Rats were also a really good indicator too. My understanding is in those early mines, whenever you saw rats running by you, that was also another rough sign. But it was mostly the canaries were most sensitive to those gases, and so whenever they started to get really agitated and everything, that's when you would know. But you had to buy all that yourself. A lot of times you didn't have that cash to buy it, so you're in debt. Right? You're in debt from day one. And a lot of times people don't make enough money because you have to spend all your money on, on credit at the company store.
Yeah, there was no tax write-offs for equipment you purchased back then. It was just like, we'll loan it to you and then charge you overpriced.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's a great old movie. It came out, I believe, in the 70s called The Molly Maguires with Sean Connery and Richard Harris. And it's about a coal miners kind of revolt in Western Pennsylvania that took place in the 1870s. They were Irish coal miners. They ended up all getting hanged. But anyway, there's a great sequence in it where it goes through the whole day of a life of a miner. And then it shows them at the end of the week while they're all waiting to see how much money that they earned, and they're detracting everything from the company stores.
Oh wow!
And so,
what's the movie called?
The Molly Maguires.
The Molly Maguires. I'm gonna look that up while you're telling us about it.
And so you have this really long line, and you have the guy would get to the front of the line, and then they say, "Okay, you earned, $20-some this week." But let's take off this for your groceries, this for this. And they go down the checklist. And okay, you've got 28 cents left. Here's your payment. And of course, they give you that in script, right? Company money. And some of the script, the company money that they gave people was even specified for specific things. One of my favorite pieces of script we have at the Mine Wars Museum is a piece that just says good for one loaf of bread.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize this. I made a post telling people about script, and there's so many people don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
So can you kind of explain how it was a monetary system?
Yeah. So each company would make their own money, make their own coinage, and this is what they would pay out to the miners. And the company script, people often say script. It's not a script. It's script that you would get at the company store. And actually, if you go to the Mine Wars Museum website and look at one of our online exhibits, you can find that piece of script, good for one loaf of bread. It says, and it was a Logan County. And each company made their own script so that you couldn't go to another company's store and buy it, so that they didn't have to compete against one another. And so you're not even getting paid in American money. When they first went on strike on Paint Creek and Cabin Creek, that's one of their strike demands, was to be paid in American money.
Ain't that crazy?
Yeah.
We still forget about that today. Like, people don't even realize.
Yeah.
When you DoorDash your chicken nuggets, like used to, people had to fight to get paid actual money.
Actual money.
Yeah.
Which is a crazy kind of system. That first big strike, the Paint Creek, Cabin Creek strike, they didn't ask for, among the strike demands, they didn't ask for a raise. They didn't ask for more money. They just asked for money.
Sure.
Just to be paid in regular American money. They had a number of other demands that had to do with how they were paid, but they didn't ask specifically for a raise.
Right.
They wanted to be treated fairly.
Yep.
Which is a whole different ballgame. So they get under this system. You also have to talk about how dangerous it was to work in the mines back then. It's obviously not nearly as dangerous as what it used to be. But of course, before it was mechanized and before there were any real safety regulations or any real regulatory agencies, there wasn't something like MSHA. There wasn't a Coal Miners Health and Safety Act, that was passed much, much later on. So coal miners had a really, really dangerous job. They would go in, they would pick out a little wedge down at the bottom of the coal seam, and they would drill the hole, by hand with these breast augers. We have one of those at the museum. They're huge.
Yep.
huge tools and heavy. I mean, just back. You can just feel the tools and just think about being down there for 8-9 hours, thinking how backbreaking that would be. And then you blow it. You put your dynamite in and you blow up your little coal seam, and then you shovel it yourself, right? Well, they had all kinds of accidents early on. Explosions. So the biggest one was the Monongah blast of 1907 that killed at least 361. We have a memorial to that in the museum, too.
Yep.
That's just we had all these check tags. And I should mention what a check tag is, too.
Yeah, for sure. I'll bring this up as a visual while you're talking about it.
Yeah, so it's... You would load up your car full of coal, right? And then you would put a check tag. Each miner had their own check tag with a number designated for each miner, right?
Right.
And so you would put your check tag with your load of coal and then push it on up, and a mule would take it up and it would go up to the front. Yeah, there it is. There's the check tags. And what would happen is then they would know that was your coal because you're paid by the ton and you're not paid by the hour. Right.
Mm.
So because you're paid by the ton, it's how much you can dig. And so your check tags would basically, ensure that your coal was counted for you because you wouldn't be there when they weighed it oftentimes. And when we first opened up the museum, we just had all these miners and their families come in. Do you want some check tags? We have check tags. So we had piles and piles of check tags that people had given us.
Mm.
And when we were revamping the museum, because we had an original location and we moved to a new location over the pandemic across the street. And Sean Slifer, our exhibit designer, and I were sitting there in the floor with all these check tags, all these piles of check tags, on the floor. And we're like, what are we going to do with all this? And he wanted to do something to memorialize the Monongah blast. And I was like, hey, why don't we take one of these for each person? And so we've got 361 of them up on the wall to represent a different person that we know died in that blast alone.
Wow. Yeah. And I know people have walked in and they didn't realize, like, is this the total amount of miners that's died, period? And like, no, that's one blast.
Yeah.
So yeah. It's very overwhelming.
And that's just the ones that were reported. You had a lot of kids working in the mines too. You didn't have really any child safety protection laws with this. And you had kids. My great grandfather went in as soon as he finished the 6th grade.
Wow.
Went in to work in the mines to help support his family. And you go in at 8 years, usually you worked as what they called a trap boy, opening up doors in different sections to let the mules go through with their loads of coal. He nearly got killed his first year in there as a trap boy. There was a partial collapse of one of the ceilings and the mule started pressing him up against the wall and was like about to crush him.
Wow.
And he bit the mule's ear off in order to get the mule off of him.
Jeez. How old was he?
He just finished the 6th grade, so he must have been about 12.
That's crazy.
11 or 12, somewhere around there, when that took place.
Let's see, kids in coal.
Yeah, my grandmother always said that was the embodiment of who Frank Keeney was as a person. He was more stubborn than a mule, and that proved it right there.